Imagine a mysterious signal from space turning into a virus that enters the human body, but instead of killing people, it connects their minds into one massive network, a single collective consciousness controlling everyone. No hate, no wars, but also no freedom. Before we start the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. The show begins with a group of astronomers at what appears to be the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex. They're studying an extraterrestrial microwave signal pulsing from deep space, a Morse code-like transmission repeating every 78 seconds, originating roughly 600 light-years away. At first, they assume it's an encrypted message, but one of them realizes it's actually an RNA sequence. Intrigued, they convert the sequence into DNA using a reverse transcriptase process, hoping to uncover its secrets. At that moment, a countdown timer flashes on screen: 71 days, 13 hours, and 21 minutes remaining, a mystery yet to be explained. The newly created DNA solution is injected into lab rats for observation. Meanwhile, we're introduced to Carol, a novelist, during a book signing in Dallas with her manager and partner, Helen. Carol seems warm and attentive to her fans, but once alone, she drops the facade, revealing her frustration with both her work and her admirers. Then the infection begins. The timer jumps ahead to 29 days, 23 hours, and 49 minutes. At the U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases in Maryland, researchers Jen and Dee discuss their failed experiments on the alien RNA sequence. Ordered to terminate the lab mice and restart their study, they discover one mouse already dead, though its heart still beats rapidly. Suddenly, it springs back to life and bites Jen's hand through her glove. While Jen disinfects the wound, Dee returns the mouse to its cage, only to see Jen collapse and begin convulsing. He tries to help her to the decontamination chamber, but as the convulsions stop, Jen abruptly kisses the receptionist, Mel, infecting him. Dee, similarly affected, does the same to the janitor. Both Mel and the janitor start convulsing too, confirming the spread of a bizarre mind-controlling virus. Moments later, Jen, Dee, and the others are seen collecting their saliva into petri dishes, seemingly to replicate the contagion. In a grotesque touch, Jen licks a tray of communal donuts at the reception desk, ensuring the virus spreads further. Finally, we cut back to Carol and Helen, now arriving in Albuquerque. The timer reappears one last time. 3 hours, 6 minutes, and 37 seconds remain.
After collecting their luggage, Carol rearranges a bookstore display so her novels sit prominently on top, then heads with Helen to a nearby bar. Carol orders a drink while Helen stays sober. The self-driving rental car won't start unless she passes the built-in breathalyzer. The two chat about Carol's next book before stepping outside for a smoke. Inside, a TV quietly reports that the airport has been shut down, but the bar patrons are too drunk to care. Outside, Carol notices strange, symmetrical flight patterns in the sky. Before she and Helen can process it, a man leaving the bar crashes his pickup into another car and collapses at the wheel. Carol rushes to help, but when she calls for Helen, Helen suddenly goes limp and collapses, hitting her head. Carol's phone breaks in the fall, so she runs back inside for help, only to find everyone in the bar convulsing violently. She grabs the bartender's phone, but emergency services are down. Realizing she must get Helen to a hospital herself, she tries to use their rental car, but she fails the breathalyzer test due to the drink she had earlier. Desperate, she hijacks the unconscious man's pickup truck, loads Helen into the back, and drives off. On the highway, she spots a police car, but finds it wrecked, the officer dead. Then, in the distance, she sees the city skyline ablaze, proof that the chaos is spreading. At the hospital, Carol finds doctors and patients alike convulsing. She drags a stretcher outside to move Helen, but it's too late. Helen dies before she can be helped. Devastated, Carol notices the convulsions stopping. People begin emerging from the hospital, eerily calm. When she approaches an orderly for help, he and everyone else turns to face her in unison. The orderly steps forward and kisses Carol, infecting her with the same strange mind virus. Terrified, she backs away, only to see two strangers trying to take Helen's body. She fights them off, shouting, "What's wrong with you?" The crowd answers in eerie unison, "We just want to help." Panicked, she speeds away in the truck. In a long, continuous shot, she drives through a burning town where the infected wander aimlessly. When she reaches home, she can't find her keys, until her neighbor's children calmly tell her where to look. Their awareness unsettles her, but she retrieves the key, tells them to leave her alone, and drags Helen's body inside. Strangely, the infected seem to respect her space, even as she watches people dragging corpses from nearby houses. She locks the doors, barricades the house, and turns on the TV for answers. After flipping through several channels, she lands on C-SPAN, where a live broadcast from the White House press room shows a lone man standing at the podium, silently waiting. As the silent man on the TV remains motionless, Carol notices the news ticker scrolling across the screen and realizes it's addressing her directly. It tells her to call the number on display, promising answers to all the questions racing through her mind. Hesitant but desperate, Carol dials it. On the other end is Davis Taffler, who explains several shocking truths. First, Helen didn't die from the virus. Her fatal head injury during the convulsions caused internal bleeding that killed her before the transformation could take effect. Second, Carol is immune to the mind virus. Even though she was kissed by an infected person, she didn't turn, a fact that has spread through the interconnected hive consciousness, now linking most of humanity. Because of this, the hive sees Carol as an anomaly, something to protect and eventually integrate into the collective. Taffler clarifies that this isn't a typical alien invasion. The original RNA signal may have come from extraterrestrials, or possibly from future humans trying to reach back in time. The result feels like a fusion of Invasion of the Body Snatchers and The World's End. Humanity has been reshaped into a hive mind species, supposedly in the name of unity and peace. The virus spreads primarily through saliva, but its simultaneous global activation suggests it was first distributed by a subtler method, perhaps through drinking water, before being triggered all at once. The transition wasn't perfect. Many people, like Helen, died accidentally during conversion. Only 12 individuals worldwide, including Carol, remain uninfected. The hive sees these few as dangerous outliers capable of disrupting its perfect order. Taffler also reveals that the hive can't read thoughts. Instead, it absorbs memories from those it infects, uploading them to a shared hive cloud. Even though Helen died mid-transformation, her memories were still copied, which explains why the hive knows everything about Carol's life. Before the episode ends, the timer reappears, now reading 1 hour. But instead of counting down, it's counting up. The first countdown marked the fall of human individuality, ending with the creation of the hive mind. Now, as it ticks upward, it represents the birth of a new species, the hive's era. Yet the timer also reflects its hubris, assuming the 12 remaining humans can't undo what's been done. That's where episode 1 ends, with humanity replaced and Carol standing as one of the last true individuals left on Earth. Before we start the second episode, just a quick reminder to like the video and subscribe so you can be part of our community. Episode 2 opens with cleanup operations underway in Morocco and across the world. The sequence shows how, through the hive's shared consciousness, every transformed human now possesses the collective knowledge of humanity. A person who was once a laborer can now act as a pilot or first responder. It's impressive, yet hollow. There's no individuality left. The familiar timer returns, revealing that we are now 11 hours and 26 minutes into this new era of the hive mind. Carol wakes up after numbing her grief with alcohol and decides to bury Helen in the backyard. Her effort is interrupted by Zosa, who appears after the hive detects Carol through a military drone, an MQ-9 Reaper, worried she'll collapse from heat exhaustion. Carol resents the interference and the drone departs. Zosa offers her water, but Carol refuses, convinced the hive has found a new way to infect her through the liquid. Zosa insists it's harmless, yet Carol angrily tosses it away. As Zosa prepares to leave, Carol realizes something. The hive has created Zosa in the image of Rabin, a character from her novels, to comfort her. Using memories taken from Helen, Zosa tries to calm Carol by speaking lovingly about her late partner. The attempt backfires. Carol's rage erupts, and the hive glitches, causing Zosa to collapse. Carol drives into town where she finds a hive-controlled construction crew frozen mid-task, also glitching. She tries to help, but as soon as she does, the hive regains control and the workers resume their robotic routine. When she returns home, Carol notices that Zosa has fetched a sun hat, gloves, and a pickaxe from a neighbor's house to make the grave digging easier. But Zosa herself is missing. Carol calls the 24/7 hotline the hive has set up just for her, demanding they send Zosa back. As Carol resumes digging with the gear Zosa gathered, Zosa reappears. When Carol asks if her earlier outburst caused the glitch, Zosa confirms it. The hive is vulnerable to intense emotional energy, and Carol's anger triggered the system-wide malfunction. When Carol presses for details, Zosa reluctantly admits that the breakdown resulted in millions of deaths. Horrified, Carol vomits. Trying to regain composure, Carol continues digging, but Zosa suggests an easier way. Once Carol agrees, a helicopter delivers a mini excavator which Zosa operates efficiently. Together, they complete the burial, and Helen finally rests in peace. After burying Helen, Carol decides to meet 5 of the 12 remaining humans whose minds haven't been absorbed by the hive. Why only 5? Because they're the only ones who speak English. Carol refuses to rely on the hive as a translator and doesn't have time to learn other languages. The hive agrees to her terms and selects Bilbao as the meeting point for the 6 unassimilated survivors. On the way there, Zosa warns Carol that while the hive has kept her safe so far, since it controls the bodies of almost every human, it can't protect her if one of the survivors decides to harm her. Carol understands the risk, but chooses optimism, focusing on the chance to finally connect with others like her. When the group finally gathers, Carol quickly realizes that the other survivors have accepted the New World Order. Atgun, Bayer, Shu, Kusamayu, and Lakshmi continue interacting with the hive-controlled vessels of their loved ones as though nothing has changed. Meanwhile, Kumba spends his time indulging every whim, including his arrival in Bilbao aboard Air Force One. Though Carol finds the gesture distasteful, she decides to use the advanced aircraft as their meeting spot. The hive obliges, escorting the survivors to the conference room, disabling all surveillance and withdrawing the vessels to ensure privacy. Once certain they're alone, Carol wastes no time. She asks for ideas on how to restore the world. The others dismiss the notion entirely. They're comfortable under the hive's control. Carol insists the hive's peace is temporary and that it's only waiting until it can assimilate the last 12 minds. But the group seems unconcerned, some even welcoming that outcome. Lakshmi, who clearly understands Carol's warnings, refuses to support her because Carol's earlier emotional outburst caused the death of her grandfather's vessel. Carol argues passionately that surrendering free will for comfort is dangerous, that humanity should steer its own course rather than handing the wheel to a collective. Kumba counters that the hive has achieved true world peace, eliminating cruelty, inequality, and discrimination. Carol challenges them to ask the hive what the human cost of this so-called peace was. The rising tension prompts Kumba to suggest breaking for lunch before continuing. This leads to a surprising revelation. The hive cannot kill. Though it provides the freshest feed available, it refuses to slaughter animals for the survivors. Kumba offers a workaround. He'll handle the killing, and the hive will do the cooking.
Still, the main focus of the scene remains the heated ethical debate between Carol, Lakshmi, and Zosa about the morality of this forced evolution.
Carol tries to reason with Lakshmi, pointing out that her son isn't truly her son anymore. He's a vessel holding both her child's memories and the collective knowledge of humanity, stripped of identity and choice. The hive, Carol argues, transforms people against their will, replacing them with obedient puppets. When her plea fails to sway anyone, she shifts the discussion to the staggering death toll caused by the hive's rise. The hive defends its actions, claiming that the transition was meant to be peaceful at first, but once the military discovered their existence, they were forced to accelerate the process. However, it's never made clear how this escalation happened, how they went from spreading the infection through saliva to transforming nearly everyone on Earth simultaneously. Carol, too fixated on the death toll, doesn't press for details. Zosa reveals the official statistic. Roughly 886 million deaths occurred during the transition. The staggering number shatters any illusion that this was an efficient path to peace. Yet, Lakshmi, determined to discredit Carol, points out that Carol's emotional outburst earlier caused the deaths of 11 million people, so she has no moral ground to judge the hive's actions. Realizing she can't persuade them, Carol decides to leave. When Lakshmi makes a snide remark, Carol snaps, calling them all traitors. As she storms off, she suddenly collapses. Too much alcohol on an empty stomach. The hive and Zosa rush to stabilize her, but Carol's emotions flare again, triggering another massive glitch in the hive's network. Lakshmi shouts a string of Hindi expletives before the scene cuts. When Carol wakes, she learns from Zosa that her outburst has scared away all the survivors except Kumba. But Kumba hasn't stayed out of solidarity. He simply wants Carol's permission to add Zosa to his harem before flying off to Las Vegas. Carol is disgusted. She points out that since the hive is still serving the survivors until it finds a way to assimilate them, Kumba is exploiting its vessels instead of helping her fight for their autonomy. If those women ever regain free will, she says, they wouldn't give a man like him a second look. On the verge of another emotional breakdown, Carol restrains herself and puts the decision in the hive's hands, whether Zosa should go with Kumba or remain by Carol's side. In the closing moments of Pluribus Episode 2, Carol boards her plane back to Albuquerque, while Zosa joins Kumba on Air Force One bound for Las Vegas. But in a sudden twist, Carol steps off her own plane and stops Air Force One from taking off, ending the episode on a tense, uncertain note. And that's the end of our video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments if you want a summary of the other episodes. Love you all, and goodbye.